now we're moving on to the Castleman Warrior Awards. So this is something we've been doing for, I guess this is the 5th year now we've done the Castleman Warrior Awards. This year we're giving out 4 Castleman Warrior Awards. And we have a category for Researcher of the Year, Physician of the Year, Loved One of the Year, and Patient of the Year. The first award that we're going to give out is for Researcher of the Year. And I've asked last year's co-recipients, Kojo and Toby Johnson and Megan Lim, if they'd come up and just share briefly, as I said, they won in 2017 for their work for Castleman disease. They're here at Penn, and they're incredible researchers and great clinicians. So I wanted them to share a few remarks about what the award meant to them, and then just anything else they'd want to share with our audience.
My name is Megan Lim. I will go first. So I usually decide who's going to do what.
We're also married.
I'm a hematopathologist. What that means is that I went to school for 20 years to learn how to look at lymph node biopsies, bone marrow biopsies, and then I've worked as a hematopathologist for 20 years. And we want to be really recognizing that this disease that we're all here about is very challenging. And I've learned a lot about the disease and the interesting and challenging clinical symptoms of the disease that you all are involved in. So Kojo and I have been working with the CDCN for the last 3 years, and we're really honored to be involved in this very important research endeavor, and we really enjoyed contributing and meeting with people who are committed to learning more about the disease.
Hi, Kojo and Toby Johnson. I've just been given permission to speak. So as Megan said, otherwise known as my boss, we've been here now for just over 3 years, and we've been studying Castleman disease, which we were familiar with through our training and as professional hematopathologists. What we didn't get an appreciation for, and we're very thankful to David for bringing this to the fore, was the extent to which our understanding of the disease was not really shared in the community. So you would only have a handful of individuals who were quote-unquote experts who could make a reliable diagnosis of the disease. And very quickly, we realized that there might be some variation in what people called Castleman disease, which had adverse consequences in being able to start treating the disease early. The second thing that we recognized rather quickly was that we knew, as people who were deeply invested in classification of diseases, that there were different kinds of disease with different manifestations. And the fact that they were named by one rubric was insufficient to capture the diversity of the disease. So with David's tremendous enthusiasm, of course, and effort, Dr. Lim and a whole bunch of collaborators who he miraculously assembled all over the world from as far away as Japan and so on and so forth, published the first paper describing the criteria that must be satisfied before you diagnose the disease. Now, so that's been published. It's been published in the highest visibility journal in the hematopathology or in hematology for that matter. So a lot of people have gotten to read it, and it served as a vehicle for people to now contact any of the authors if they have symptoms or if they have diseases that have been diagnosed in that regard. So we were awarded the Castleman Research Warrior of the Year award last year with the intent of trying to come up with a genetic basis for the disease, which is an area that we work on fairly intensely. That work is going on. I wish I had more exciting news to give you today that we found the gene that carries the Castleman disease aberration, but we're far from that now. What we do understand now is that there might be such a large variation of diseases that might be within that entity that each person or each small group of people may be their own manifestation. And we're hoping to be able to expand our studies and do deeper dives into the genetics, and hopefully this time next year I'll have very welcome.
Thank you. So I mentioned earlier that I was talking into the computer, and hopefully Chris can hear. We didn't set up the audio visual perfectly. I might have to put the microphone to the computer, but I'm really excited to present this year's Castleman Warrior Researcher of the Year Award to Dr. Chris Nabel. Chris is up here on the screen. Chris, you're in front of everyone on the monitor. And Chris didn't know why I was asking him to video in at 4:35 on Friday. And he's actually, I'll digress a bit, he's actually with his wife right now, who just returned from getting second place at World Championships rowing in Europe. Wow. She's got second place. And he's finally on vacation with her. She's been training for the last how many decades, and she's finally with Chris, and Chris is taking some time to be with all of us this afternoon. But getting back to why we're giving this award, Chris is a hematology fellow up in Boston at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and Chris has a long history with Castleman disease. He looks very young for how long the history he has of Castleman disease, and that's that. When I decided to start the CDCN back in 2012, I met with Dr. Van Ree and then Dr. Rubenstein here at Penn, and we started to forge a plan. And I knew that I couldn't do it on my own, and so I sent out an email to my classmates at Penn, all Penn Med students. I sent it to seven years worth, because all the PhD students and all the MD students, and I heard back from about a handful of people. 4 out of those 5 people never really did very much. But the one person, and actually the first person I heard back from was Chris Nabel. And Chris emailed and said, I'd love to help. Let's get together. And we got together back in August of 2012. My head was still bald from all the chemotherapy I'd gotten. And we just started hashing out, okay, where are we right now with Castleman's? What do we need to do moving forward? And that was the start of Chris's journey with Castleman disease. Since then, he's co-authored a number of papers on Castleman disease. He's been the lead investigator. Again, he looks very young for someone to do all this, but been the lead investigator on the important study that Dustin talked about, where we didn't find a virus that we think is causing Castleman, and that's a really important finding, to not actually have this novel virus. Chris really was the lead on that, and we're getting ready to turn that submitted in for a paper. So this year, I am so pleased to announce and to give this award to Chris. And now, Chris, we're going to see if we figured out the audio video. So I'm going to move this over here, and Chris, if you'd like to try to accept the award. Let's see. Wait. Try talking again. Hold on. Let me try something else. Let's see. Sorry.
Can you guys hear me okay? Well, thanks, Dave. It's a pleasure to be with you guys from afar, but definitely in spirit. And for me, getting to work on Castleman disease has just been a really fulfilling experience, and honestly reward enough in of itself. I think that the things that I've really enjoyed have been the team-based approach to really figuring out what's going on with people in real time and being able to come up with experiments move the field and to really interact with patients and people like you and to see how all of these advances play out in real time. It's really exciting to get to work with patients, people who I sit down with in the clinics, and to get to think about how to move things forward, to get to be part of your supporting team, and I think the community that Dave's built with physicians and other researchers is really supportive of team science, and honestly, it's the way that things should be done. And it's a much more efficient way of, I think, moving science in the direction of patient interests. So it's been encouraging to see everything that the CDCN's been able to do thus far, and to get to help Dave move things along and to play a role in that. There's still a lot of room to go, and I'm hopeful that there's a lot more promising work coming down the pipeline from the CDCN. And I think also that the model for the CDCN will start to permeate and I think influence a lot of the ways that other diseases are approached by collaborative teams of patients, loved ones, physicians, and scientists. So, it's really been my honor to get to do the work that we've done together. It's great to get to join you guys from afar and to keep things going.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chris. And like I said, I think it's just so special he's able to join us this afternoon, and it's just been so great working with Chris over these years. Thank you so much, Chris. Tell Mary I said to say hi and congrats. All right. Let's see if we can figure out how to get this back. Nice. Okay, great. All right, so now we are going to be giving out the Castleman Warrior Patient of the Year Award. And this is also someone who I've had the opportunity to work with really from day one. So I guess Chris was, maybe you could say, CDCN number 2. This next person I'm introducing was CDCN number 3. I first heard about this patient from a doctor who reached out to me and said, I just learned about a patient who's also a medical student who is at the same time of you in his development and is also now really sick in the hospital, really, really sick. And he started to improve, and maybe when he gets out of the hospital, maybe we can connect you guys. And at that stage, I had only met a few Castleman disease patients at that stage, and I got a chance to talk on the phone with Raj. And it was over 2 hours, more than 2 hours we spent on the phone. Really just, it felt so special to talk to someone else who knew what I was going through, and I think the same went for Raj, to be able to connect in that way. And fairly soon after that first conversation, we stayed in touch, but fairly soon after that, I had a really major relapse and nearly died for the 5th time, and it was obviously really scary. For my family and I, and Raj reached out almost immediately after I got out of the hospital. It may even been while I was still in the hospital, I think Raj reached out to me, and he said, I want to help, I want to do whatever I can. And I didn't really know exactly what he meant, but he said, I want to take a semester off from medical school and just do anything and everything I can for Castleman disease. And so he did that. He took the next 6 months completely off from medical school. He put his life on hold for 6 months, and he started working on Castleman disease. And the effort that he really focused on was the Accelerate Registry. So this registry you've heard us talking about, where we have 150 patients in it. Raj spent those really formative 6 months trying to figure out who the vendor would be for the system, trying to figure out what would be the study design for this registry so we can make the most of it. How can we pull together thousands of data points on hundreds of patients in a really meaningful way? And Raj put the time in, and that was a few years ago, and he continues to be involved in a million ways. So I am so excited. We don't have to video Raj in. I was able to get Raj to come. And before, we want to play a quick video before we ask for you to share some remarks. This is just a quick video, because the other thing I wanted to highlight is that Raj also, when we first got together, the focus was on the Accelerate Registry, but we also talked about another study that we were really excited about called a Speed 1 proteomics study. We had always heard about IL-6 being the problem, but we asked the question, are there other cytokines, are there other proteins that could be playing important roles? And we used technology to measure about 1,000 proteins at once. And so Raj and I decided, let's go forward. Let's do this study where we measure 1,000 proteins in the blood of patients all at once. And that was a great plan, but of course, it's really expensive to measure 1,000 proteins at once. And even for this study of just a small number of patients, it was going to cost us $25,000 to do. This is the first time we were trying to make a study happen, and we had no money to make anything happen. And so, amazingly, Raj reached out to friends and family, med school classmates, basically anyone who Raj had ever interacted with, I think. Either that or he has the largest network of loved ones of anyone I've ever met. Because, oh my gosh, did everyone come out and make donations and say, we want to help make this happen. And soon enough, Raj raised $25,000, the full amount needed, from friends and family giving $5 donations and $100 donations. We got up to $25,000 and was able to fully fund this study, which I'm going to show just a brief video. Thanks so much, Raj. We'd love for you to stay, if you would like to.
So I come to every CDCN event with this speech in my pocket. Today's the day. No, this caught me completely off guard. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Like Dave said, he was the first person I ever spoke to. I'm sure all of us can understand the first person we spoke to with Castleman disease and how that feeling is. It is really amazing to see the number of people here today. Because yeah, when I was diagnosed, I think the CDCN was just forming, and so to see the number of people that have come here that we find out that actually have Castleman disease and have been able to be connected through this organization has been truly marvelous. So I'm excited to see this organization continue to grow. I'm excited to see more and more people involved and helping combat this disease, because I know in our lifetime we're going to see this, the cure for this treatment, or for this disease. So thank you guys.
Raj is now a pediatrics resident in Texas Children's Hospital. He's making us very proud. Oh, and then I was also, sorry, there was a video to congratulate you from, this is last year's winner. And I wanted to play the whole video, so Ryan, if you're watching the Facebook Live, I wanted to play the whole video, but we're low on time, so we had to cut it.
Hello, this is my shop here in Kent, Idaho. I just wanted to say, sorry I couldn't make it this year to the Patient Summit. been there the last 2 years. They have a great fun. Just couldn't make it this year, unfortunately. So I thought I'd do this little video just so I could thank everybody for nominating me last year as Castleman Award of the Year. Well, anyways, let's get down to the winner. This year's 2008 Jim Johnson Castleman Award of the Year. And the award goes to Raj. Thank you, buddy. You helped me a lot. First person to contact me, point me in the direction of CDCN. I appreciate it. Maybe we'll see you next year, man. Have fun. Take care, and thanks, everybody.
All right, so now we're moving on to the Castleman Warrior Loved One of the Year Award. This award, again, is going to a really special person. It's interesting. We've been doing these awards for 5 years, and the first 4 years of award winners have all were absolutely incredible, and just like they are this year. This year, most of the winners, and these are people who are nominated by all of you. This year, most of the winners are people who are really there from day one. These are like the earliest day, the people who started with the CDCN really before CDCN was even really a thing. Chris was the first person who said, I want to get involved in the science. Raj was a medical student saying, I want to get involved. And this third person certainly falls into that category. She first learned about Castleman disease because she is my mother-in-law. And she learned about Castleman disease when I was first diagnosed and the challenges that I went through as a Castleman disease patient, which obviously was incredibly difficult for our whole family. And a couple years, so a few years when I was starting to feel better, and just as we were starting with CDCN, she said, Dave, I really would love to help. And I really, I think that the ways that I can help is with coordinating all of these volunteers, with supporting patients. I think we need a CDCN cell phone. And my response to her was, I don't know if anyone's going to call the CDCN cell phone. Like, do we really need one? And her response to me was, no, let's just have it. So any patient, anytime can just call and get information. I can be there for them. I'll answer it. I'll be there for our volunteers. And Patty created a position where there really wasn't even one before. We were so focused on the science that we tried our best to help patients anytime we could, but we didn't have anyone in place, we didn't have any infrastructure in place, and she said, I want to do this, and I think we need this. And I think that has completely transformed our organization from being a research organization that tries to help patients to being an organization that helps patients through research. And we could not have done that, and we could not have accomplished nearly even close to what we've accomplished without that really, really important work that Patty did early on. Her title was community coordinator, but really she was kind of just in charge of everything. And she has stayed involved in a million ways. She's no longer community coordinator. Now she helps to lead up our Question of the Year event, the gala that's coming up. She also helps to lead up all of our events and fundraising campaigns, along with Maleva. It just does an absolutely incredible job. And on top of that, she's an amazing mother-in-law and an amazing grandmother, too, to our little Amelia. So, Patty, will you come back? So, Patty didn't know that we were doing this award today, but I knew there was one way to get her here, and that was to bring Amelia. I knew that if I could get Amelia here, I could get Patty here. So.
Thank you. I'm the nanny. Thank you. This is wonderful. When I saw Bernie and Michael walk in, I thought, oh, something's happening. What's happening here? I feel like I know most of you. Because when we started this, I remember Shannon Baker called, and Raj was my boss at one point. Raj, if I could have your speech right now. Nina called when Gary was in the hospital and not doing well, and we talked her through it, and we got David there for her. So I feel like I know most of you, him and Nick Driscoll, and and hopefully get to know more of you as we start this or continue this journey that we're on, because I know that we're going to have a cure. Here we are.
We got Amelia here. We knew we could get that here. All right. So the last award winner to give out, and I'm just so happy. You're the best. Thank you. The last award winner that we're giving out. So this is someone who lives just down the street. We had to get someone all the way across the world for the last award winner. I shared a little bit about Dr. Oxenhandler earlier, about my first introduction to him with that really scary journal article that I read of his, but that things have gotten better in our relationship since then. More recently, with him starting up the Castleman Disease Center in Paris, I had the opportunity to go there with Sheila to the opening of the center a few months ago, and I was just so impressed to see the enthusiasm and the energy that's being put into Castleman right now in Paris, all with Eric's leadership. He's got a really great team around him. So this is someone who's made a really big impact historically on the disease, and also is really pushing things forward right now. So it's my honor to welcome and to congratulate Eric Oxenhandler as this year's Physician of the Year.
It's really a great honor, and I'm really pleased to be with you today. It's a huge emotion, and I think I will be, it's a positive emotion, so I will be fine for at least 6 or 12 months. This till the next summit. I would say that I had 3 professional lives. The first one was dedicated to blood disorders and abnormal lymph nodes in the HIV positive population. That was the bad years, 80s, 90s. Nobody wanted to take care of these patients at that time in Paris because, you know, the cumulative HIV infection and the trauma and tumor, that was too much. But that was the time I met first Castleman disease, because Castleman disease affected these patients. And my second professional life was dedicated to patients with primary immune deficiency. I'm an immunologist, so I'm really interested in patients with abnormalities in the immune system. So I focused on patients, children and adults suffering from primary immune deficiency. Most of them lack of immunoglobulins, of antibodies, for example, and they are susceptible to infection. But in some of them, we have also other abnormalities of the immune system involving lymph nodes. And we have discussed today one of these cases with the ALPS, where we can find flavors of Castleman disease in these patients, suggesting that in different circumstances where the immune system is challenged or attacked through a virus infection or immune defect, we can have these flavors of Castleman disease. So that's why it's so important to still work on all types of Castleman disease. It has been very important these days, these past 2 years, to be capable of designing this classification and diagnosis criteria to well define all 3 types of the disease. But it's also, we know now that these 3 types represent 3 very different diseases. But it's very important to go on working on the 3 types of the disease to better understand what's going on and to better find targets for new therapy. So thank you so much. I won't be too long, and it was my pleasure to be with you today. I hope I will be there next year too.
so thrilled that Eric could be here and that we could celebrate, as we said, the work that he's done historically, but also the work that he's doing right now and his plans for the future. We're so fortunate to have him as part of this Castleman's Army. So that gets us to our last slide. I think it's like the 211th slide of the day. So this is 211th slide. We made it through all 211. I thought today was a really special day. For me, this is the day that I look forward to all year long, to get together with you guys, and I know my whole team feels the same way. We love having you guys in town. We love sharing with you about the work that we're doing. We love connecting with one another. And I think that the big theme from my perspective that came from this is that we can't do this alone. We really have to be there for one another. And I think that another thing that came out is just this opportunity, to help us help you, and that's what we're here for. We want to figure out Castleman disease to help all of you, and there are some really clear research studies that we're doing that hopefully will help us to come up with more answers and clinical trial that we have planned for early 2019. So we are going to keep working really hard on our end from the CDCN side, keep trying to drive forward science. And we're always available and here to help you guys. Just ask Maleva if you need anything. She's there. We're all here. Ask Patty if you need anything. But thank you guys so much for making the trip here. We've got a fun day planned tomorrow for those of you guys that can make it. We're going to be meeting in the Sheridan lobby at 9:45 a.m. tomorrow morning and heading to Spruce Street Harbor Park just for a day of hanging out. The weather should be pretty good. There'll be food served. There's going to be there's some places like hammocks and hangout space.
2 hammock lounges where everybody can kind of just be together. We took your advice last year. Everybody said you loved all the things that we're doing, but you never really get the chance to talk. And so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're just going to hang out down at the Harbor Park. We have 2 hammock lounges where everybody can just be together. We have it catered, so you don't have to find food on your own. There's going to be food that's going to be there. There's also life-size games that you guys can play. There's lots to do down there. So we're just going to go down and be together and have a few hours where we can all kind of hang out. So
yeah, it should be a ton of fun. Every year, our Saturday of this weekend is always just a lot of fun gathering together. I think tomorrow will be great. So before we close up, I just want to take a moment. We have a round of applause. A round of applause for the incredible volunteers who helped make today possible. It's a team effort, but maybe even a special round of applause just for Curran. I don't know if Curran. She said that it's special. All right, thank you guys so much. See you tomorrow.